Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special Miami edition of the Tatiana Show. You have not seen Josh Scigala in a while, and that's because he's been working really hard on a new project called The Standard. Today on the show, I'm joined by him and his co-founder, Laurin Bylica, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what they're doing to bring back a new gold standard using blockchain technology and gold. So welcome to the show, guys. Thanks so much for making the time. I know it's a little bit tricky with everything that you have going on. Welcome to the Tatiana Show.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, it's great to be back, Tatiana. It's been such a long time. I'm just super happy to be back on the cast.
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Tatiana.
Very, very happy to do so. So, Laurin, people are familiar with Josh's background. And Josh, actually, why don't both of you guys give me a rundown of, how did you get involved in crypto and what were you doing right before we dive into what the standard is?
So, yeah, I started my career pretty early on as a teenage entrepreneur, organizing student parties, so doing something very different than crypto. And then I started a bachelor in international business in Germany, which after completion, I went the corporate trail into Accenture, working as a management consultant for a year. But I thought, well, that's interesting, but I think there's more. So I started a master's in international economics, pivoted slightly. And this is how I got in touch with libertarian ideas, and in particular also the blockchain technology. So I decided pretty quick that this technology is pretty dope and I need to get really deep into it. And I applied at Block One, a company that was just about to conduct the largest ICO in history. I got accepted for an internship, and overnight I moved to Hong Kong and joined Block One during this really great ICO of the EOS token. And after a year of the ICOing, I started working for Block One's venture capital arm called EOSVC, did a lot of blockchain-based investments, and then pivoted slightly to the family office of the guys from Block One, working on different investments, in particular biotech, but also crypto. And then I decided to move back to Germany and join Joshua at Vaultoro first as head of business development. But we quickly got together and formed the idea of the standard. And then we decided to start a project together with also 3 other co-founders. And this is how the standard was born. I hand over to you, Josh.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so people know me, I think, but if you don't, I've been in crypto for a very long time and always building on there. I built the world's first Bitcoin to physical gold exchange where you could trade to gold and then back to crypto. We launched in 2015. And we were the first exchange to launch the Lightning Network on an exchange. And I kind of did my bit to help dislodge the whole scaling debate stuff back in the day as well. And now here we are with Bitcoin and Lightning Network doing amazing stuff. And people are starting to see that on Ethereum too, with the Lightning with the layer 2 solutions over there. What we did is have people investing in gold, and really we started to see problems with the fact that there's no yield, and a lot of people are like, why would I have gold if there's no yield? I'd rather have some bonds or stocks or something else, and that's why we wanted to build the standard to figure out, hey, we can do more with gold. We can build a gold standard, but we don't need to ask for government for permission. And this is really where we're at.
Awesome. Cool. So let's dive right into it. What is the standard?
So the elevator pitch is, imagine you buy some gold or you have some crypto. If you've got some crypto, the worst thing is to sell the crypto when it's going up. You're like, damn it, the car just broke. I want to buy a new car. I've got some Bitcoin, but I don't want to sell it. what can I do? Well, what you can do is we're building a protocol where you can lock up the Bitcoin in a smart contract. So you don't have to trust a central authority like a company. You can lock it. You can send it to a smart contract, lock it up, and from the value, let's say you've got $5,000 worth of Ethereum or Bitcoin locked in there, you can then generate standard euro or standard dollar, which is a stable coin pegged to the euro or the dollar, and then spend that and buy your car. Meanwhile, the Bitcoin or the Ethereum or the gold goes up in value, and the fiat that you borrowed is actually going down in value. So because it's being inflated away, the inflation is effectively paying off your loan. So let's say after you borrowed $5,000 to buy a new sort of used car, let's say, in 10 years' time, maybe that same money buys you a carton of milk because it's been devalued so much. Suddenly, you can pay off your car loan with the price of a carton of milk. So this is what we're just the short of it. You can lock up hard assets and soft assets, so gold and crypto, and then be able to borrow fiat pegged stable coins.
Okay, so it's a gold-backed coin. How is it different from all the other gold projects, though? Because I've heard about a variety of different gold projects. Like, what makes this one different?
Yeah, so the problem with these other gold projects is they usually tokenize gold 1-to-1, meaning, for example, that one gold token is equal 1 gram of gold. But the problem with this is that the storage fees cannot be covered by actually the token issuer, unless the token issuer keeps on selling more and more gold. Let's elaborate on this a little bit further. So when I tokenize any physical asset, a physical asset always comes with a storage fee. For example, with a storage cost. For example, in the gold that is stored in vaulting facilities, someone has to pay for the heavy doors, for the guys with the guns in front of the vaulting facilities, for the audits and the insurance. But if people just tokenize these gold, issue these tokens, let the token to float around on secondary markets, there's no way that they can cover these storage fees by simply issuing this token without an inbuilt function that will take this token off the market to actually cover the storage fees. So any gold token project out there hasn't solved the issue of the storage fees. They're just hoping to keep on selling to cover the accumulating debt of storage costs.
It happens all the time. Like, people lose their keys, they die. This is the big problem with crypto, is that it's a bearer-based instrument. So if you lose your private keys, because most of these gold tokens, they pay the storage fees on the send. So I send to Tatiana 1 gram of gold, and the smart contract splits it in that moment and sends a little bit to the vaulting facility. But if I lose my keys, that can't happen. If I don't move it for 10 years, that can't happen. So these gold-backed tokens, 1-to-1, are effectively Ponzi schemes, like Laurin was saying. You always need new people to come in to pay for anyone that's lost their keys or hasn't moved their coins in years.
Yeah, and that's scary for everyone who's holding this token. So we with the standard, we thought about it. We have been asked through Vaultoro millions of times by gold vaulting facilities, why don't you guys tokenize gold? But there was no solution how to do it and how to actually build this storage fees in that this would work. So we came up with the standard as one solution to this, meaning that people that tokenize at vaulting facilities that use the standard protocol to tokenize their gold will use the tokenized gold just as a unit of account within the protocol. So it will not be able to withdraw these gold tokens off the protocol, and therefore our smart contracts will have inbuilt functionalities that will send a minor amount of this token of the gold token back to the vaulting facilities to actually pay for the storage fees. So yes, it's restrictive in terms of it will not be floating on secondary market. It will stay within the platform. But what is anyways the benefit of having a gold token floating around on secondary markets if nobody counts in gold? Nobody will ever buy a liter of milk or will cost a liter of milk in gold grams. Everybody is very used to the local currencies, and that's why we decided to use the gold as collateral, to still tokenize it, but just on the platform, and to actually allow people to mint stable fiat-pegged currencies for the purpose of spending.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Josh, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, just to back that up, like how many grams of gold is a liter of milk? You know, no one knows.
Yeah.
What? I've actually been to a gold conference. I've tried to pay with some silver for something because I had some silver coins, and it was so difficult. The guy was like really enthusiastic, wanted to do it. Almost impossible. He couldn't do it. He was like, but I trade this and how much per gram, and he was calculating it. It was just a nightmare, complete nightmare. So, but imagine instead of paying in the actual silver, you use the silver and gold as collateral, or Bitcoin and crypto, so rare assets, but spend in fiat. Save in hard assets, spend in fiat. That's the motto.
Okay, so how do you peg the value of the standard euro to the euro, though? And I think that there's like a difference between a hard peg and a soft peg stablecoin. So can you help me understand that?
This is a really fun question. You need to be taken down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, listeners. How do you, like, if you bring out a token, how do you peg that? So one way, which is the big centralized way, is to say we promise to always pay $1 for 1 gram for one token, always 1 to 1. This is how Tether does it. This is how but it's very, very important to remember that when you have a centralized solution, it's very, very dangerous. You know, all these coins like USD Circle and USDT, they all hold an amount of money in a bank account, pegging that ERC20. Now, what happens when the government decides, we want to make that illegal now? Our central bank is going to issue a digital currency. Everything else is illegal. And they probably will, because right now, the DeFi space is doing more volume than the entire fintech space put together. I mean, this is including Venmo and everything else. It's enormous. So governments want a piece of that action. So that's one thing. They could shut these things down. Second thing is, what if one of these centralized stablecoins decide to basically, not decide, but just bad business people and go out of business? Well, then it also brings the whole thing down. What if the money that they're storing in the banks, we have another 2008 banking crisis, all of a sudden that's gone? It destroys the entire alternative side project of money, which is the crypto space, right? Because if we tie that too closely, so there's all these attack vectors. What if someone uses one of these stablecoins on a dark market and the police come in and shut down the entire bank account of the whole ecosystem of one of these stablecoins? What if regulators come along and say, no, we don't like this anymore? It could also destroy an entire space of the crypto economy. But the biggest one is, why isn't there a euro-backed stablecoin? Why is it? Everyone's looking, everyone wants one in Europe. Well, I'll tell you why. Because here we have negative interest rates. When you have negative interest rates, you have to actually pay to have money in the bank. So if you have, like, Tether has just been named by JP Morgan Chase as being one of the largest investment funds in America. This is by the side, only followed by one other, and that's BlackRock. I think there's one other as well. So it's up there with BlackRock. This is an enormous investment fund. So there is a lot at stake here with these stablecoins. We're taking on a really big thing. Now, if they stored all that money in a bank account and they have negative interest rates, the whole business model breaks, especially for the regulated ones. Because I don't want to mean to say, but USDC, which is Circle, will go full circle. Oh, let's get into crypto, get away from banks, blah, 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 blah. Whoops, we're back at banks. We're back at banks. So the banks, who knows? Are they in fractional reserve? Are they fully backing the one-to-one? No. So, okay, that's one side of it. Now we look at something like what we're doing at the Standard, which is an algorithmic stablecoin. We are enabling people to lock up hard assets, like real assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and gold, into a smart contract and generate up to 85% of that value in a fiat pegged stablecoin. How's it pegged? So the system decides on interest rate on those loans. So you borrow from yourself some money, right? You lock up some assets. You don't need to go to a bank to borrow money. You go to yourself and you say, I've locked up this much money from myself and I'm going to borrow, generate new money, and that has an interest rate. Why does it have an interest rate? We call it a stability fee because it stabilizes the money. So quickly to walk through this. If the standard euro drops below the price of a government-issued euro, of the ECB-issued euro, then what you do is the system will slightly lift interest rates. And a lot of people that have borrowed money from themselves will go like, that's too much. I don't want to pay that much interest. So they'll go onto the secondary markets, buy up a whole bunch of standard euro. That demand lifts the price again because people want to take standard euro off the market. And that heads again towards the one-to-one. Inversely, if it gets more expensive than the euro, the system will lower interest rates. People go, whoa, I'm going to take another loan out for myself. I'm going to borrow more. They pile that money onto secondary exchanges, which creates supply, which drops the value. So this constant thing, I know it seems complicated, but this is the actual mechanisms that central banks have used for a very long time to keep their economies looking fairly stable. So it worked. I didn't think it would work as well as it does, but the first protocol to do this was Maker with the Maker DAO, and I didn't think it would work as well as it did, and I've been watching them since the start, and it's extraordinary. They've done a very, very good job over there to really show this as a concept. The problem was because they were the first, there's a lot of things that they could do better, and we feel that we're the next generation of MakerDAI. We are allowing for hard assets to be used as collateral, one. We're fixing the governance system by using prediction markets. We can talk about that later. But thirdly, we're issuing a whole suite of stable coins. So Maker just has DAI, which is pegged to the USD. We're going to issue standard euro first. Because of the negative interest rates, there is no real stable coin pegged to the euro. And then we'll issue more and more currencies, the peso, the yen, the shekel, the USD, the Australian dollar, the whole lot. This is a voluntary gold standard for the world. We don't need to ask the government for permission anymore. People can go, okay, I'm going to lock up my assets, issue myself a fiat.
Cool. So did you want to tell me a little bit about the governance model?
First of all, we have a governance token. The platform has a native governance token called the standard token. The standard token will constitute a standard DAO, so a decentralized autonomous organization that will govern the whole platform. And what we mean by this is really develop the platform, for example, onboard new vaulting facilities that will act as hard asset custodians, but also set the stability fee, like Josh elaborated, rather than a closed community of 5 central bankers who will set the interest rates. In our system, the community of standard token holders will have set the interest rates, and we hope that we get thousands of people voting through a democratic process. to set these stability fees. But voting itself has been, in the crypto world, always an issue. Many projects that actually mean or call themselves decentralized, behind the scene it turns out they're not as decentralized as they say. And also voter empathy is a big issue. I mean, people participate in voting mechanisms to get voting remuneration, but there's no incentive to actually make them work for the right vote. So they just click anything they think is maybe right, maybe not. They don't really care. At least they have placed their vote and they get the remuneration. So this model is a little bit broken. And we think that we need to solve it. And the solution that Josh came up with, and is his favorite topic, so I'm not sure if I should elaborate on it, but it's prediction markets. So prediction markets is the closest that we human have to predict the future in an accurate way. So prediction markets are very, very common in industry that has more shady kind of touch to it, meaning the betting industry. But actually, it's really interesting that prediction markets are used in betting and are usually show the most favorable outcome and are very accurate. So we want to take the prediction markets in a slightly different way for our platform and enable people to set predictions. For example, what's the best stability fee to peg the standard euro to the fiat euro price, and to place their bets on it. And through this, we hope to solve the voter empathy, but also to get really a strong, decentralized governance mechanism that is unique in the whole space, onboarded on the platform and actually working. However, going from voting to prediction markets will take some time. So our DAO is in his baby shoes. We have to get this DAO to mature. We will start very easy with voting, a voting model. So every decentralized project actually starts centralized to some extent in the beginning and then decentralizes over time. And usually then is when it's really decentralized, where voting makes sense. But then in the next step, we want to take it further. And once voting works, we will explore prediction markets as the governance mechanism.
I think you did a good job with that, Laurin. I know this is Josh's favorite topic, but that was pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, it's super interesting because most people, when they predict something, like let's say sport, you might be really into one team. That might be your home team. You're fully invested in that team. If you didn't put money on it, you'd be like, I think they're going to win. They're going to win. You just say sort of they're going to win. But behind the scenes, that the best shooter is actually got, he broke his leg like 2 months ago, and some other player is out of business, and like the other team is pretty good. And because there's money, because you're putting skin in the game, you might actually, without telling anyone, put a bet on the other team because you can make money, right? So by people wagering on an outcome, they actually put aside their dogmas to determine the truth in the future. So rather than voting, which basically just says that's my favorite, and there's no sort of penalty or reward for for choosing the right thing. A lot of people just choose what they love or what resonates with them or what has the nicest picture in terms of politicians, So yeah, I'm really excited. I think it really fixes that voter apathy that Laurin was talking about, because a lot of DAOs, no one turns up because they just want to hold their coins. They're like, my coin's going to go up and I don't care. And so this model, there's always people wanting to, speculate on an outcome. So you can speculate now on which is the best peg in the future that in 10 hours from now will bring us closer to the peg of the euro. And so building these markets in will be a wonderful way to keep that peg as hard as possible.
Awesome. So why are you guys calling this an infrastructure project?
It is really interesting. So infrastructure because of two reasons. Number one, we are the infrastructure for other companies to be plugged into that are actually dealing with hard assets. So meaning very specific vaulting facilities all around the world that store precious metals for their customers and have no other use case than storing these precious metals and just gathering dust in vaulting facilities, or that like these precious metals stuck in these vaulting facilities actually never see the sunlight. And we call it an infrastructure product because these facilities can plug into the standard protocol and add a use case to their stored precious metals.
I want to add to that. We really see it as a kind of a SEPA or a SWIFT of vaulting facilities. So just like banks plug into the SWIFT network or the SEPA network, which is the infrastructure that binds banks together to be able to do banking transfers, we see this as an infrastructure to tie the vaulting facilities into a network that allows people to collateralize that value, create standard euro, and then be able to use that in the DeFi space or trade it for normal euro, or or any other state. When I say euro, standard euro, I mean standard dollar, standard yen, whatever currency they wish to export.
So when are you guys going live? I know that you were just in Mallorca, and I was also a little bit curious about what are people saying, because I know there were a lot of maximalists there. So how did it go over? And when are you going live?
I was pretty surprised actually. There was a bunch of projects there, and everyone was like, the Ethereum, whatever. But when we talked about the standard and what we're trying to do, a lot of the maximalists were like, oh, okay, first they were like, oh, why do you need it? Just use Bitcoin. But after a while, when you say, look, I love Bitcoin, Bitcoin's great, but you can use Bitcoin to collateralize it and have a stable coin that you can pay. In fact, more and more people are realizing that the stable coins are a massive part to play in this whole crypto story, because I don't know about you, Tatiana, but how many freelancers that you're working with are asking for stable coins rather than asking directly for Ethereum or Bitcoin? For us, it's a lot. I've really seen the change because it's so easy to account for. If you get paid in a stable coin, you're like, well, I sent out an invoice for 690 USD and I got 690 USD of stablecoin. Now I can use that to buy some Bitcoin, buy some Ethereum or whatever I want. But for accounting purposes, boom, it's easy. So more and more people are asking to be paid in stablecoins. Stablecoins, if they're done right, like algorithmic ones like the standard, I think have a huge part to play in the future. I don't think these centralized stablecoins do, but because of negative interest rates and a whole bunch of other things like we mentioned before, but the algorithmic ones are the future, absolutely. And yeah, that's it.
So when are you guys going live then?
This is a really hard question. We're currently raising funds for this project, and I don't like to put a date on it. We do have a roadmap on the website, but the thing is, Vaultoro's been around since 2015. We've never been hacked. Constantly being attacked, never been hacked. Why? Because we have the best people working in security, and we're obsessed with security. We just saw Polygon on the Ethereum network get hacked for more than $500 million worth of assets. The hacker gave it back, luckily, but
Wait, why? Why did the hacker give it
Because he
back?
couldn't launder
Was it
that
to
much
prove a
money. He
point?
tried to. He tried to
Oh,
start to like sell it, and all these exchanges were like, wait, dude, we know who you are. Like, it all came from this address. You can't. So he couldn't. And then he was starting to sweat because all the policing, and I mean, it was a big sum of money, more than $500 million. Like, it's probably.
and so he's like, my bad, and that's it. He just sends it back.
He sent it back, yeah. So I'm not sure about the whole ins and outs, if he got rewarded or what. But nevertheless, these smart contracts are very, 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 very dangerous. You have to be secure. So I don't want to put like a hard date. This is the release date. We want to say there's a general release date. It's coming up early next year for the MVP, for the first viable product. But we're not going to release anything until it's been checked, double-checked. We've got one of the best security auditors in the world, Hartej from Osho, and now what's his new company called? I'm sorry.
I don't recall either, but everybody knows
Everyone
Hartej.
knows
He's
Hartej.
the hip-looking Indian dude with a cool
Yeah,
turban, being
it's
like,
so
yeah.
cute.
Dude,
Yeah.
Hartej pretty much invented smart contract auditing. The whole industry came from this guy. He started this whole thing right in the beginning when Ethereum was just starting. He was auditing some of the biggest projects in this space. He's come on as an advisor on the standard to really help us make sure that we are clear. Our tech team, security team at Vaultoro, who's kept Vaultoro safe, is also going to be working very, very hard to keep this all clear. So for me, rather than speed is security. We know that the standard is going to be holding billions of dollars of assets over time. So it has to be secure. It has to be as elegant and as beautiful as it can possibly be.
So why wouldn't the government try and stop something like this? I would see this as a very big threat, right? And then, a DAO is supposed to be decentralized and maybe the decisions are, but you guys are kind of facing that. Like, do you feel, considering how scary things are in the world, it seems like we're going further into a totalitarian nightmare. Are there risks for creating something like this?
Yeah, I mean, we have heard this, like I've been in crypto since 2017. Were in an active role, and since 2015 following Bitcoin. And to be honest, I've heard this so many times. Why is the government not regulating the whole space and shutting everything down? At the end of the day, once I came along someone who really gave me the truth about this. The only way you can shut down crypto is you shut down the whole internet. And I believe we all agree this will not happen. So I'm not directly concerned about governance regulation coming in and shutting us down. I think they will more target the more centralized stable coins that actually work with the hard pack. And we as a decentralized lending platform, we are just a add-on to actually fiat currencies. Well, fiat, in the Austrian School of Economics, has been always the future painted of competing currencies. And I think we are now living in a time where we see a future, or where this future starts becoming reality, and competing currencies are arising. So one thing that we haven't touched base on are the central bank digital currencies, the super centralized cryptocurrencies that have nothing to do with the crypto spirit, issued by central banks. The total nightmare for everyone who's long in crypto. But and then we have also another form of the stablecoins, the hard pack, and then soft pack algorithmic stablecoins. So these are really the three fiat packed stablecoins that we have. Well, one is not really packed, but it is still a fiat packed stablecoin. And anyhow, so we have these competing currencies, and we will see which one will really succeed. One thing with the CBDCs is, though, it's this really scary future that we will live in. Well, we had a protection layer between us and the central banks, which were the commercial banks, the retail banks, as a protection layer in between. Now, with the CBDCs, everyone will become a direct customer of a central bank, which has the really centralized monopoly on our finances. And this is scary. Let's picture a world where a bank decides a certain ethnic minority is not allowed to bank with them. So they will not be allowed to open bank accounts at all. And this like vacuum of power that is created there, like by the central banks, where they grab all the power through the CBDCs, has to be conquered by something like algorithmic stablecoins. So I think, yes, there is a regulatory changes are coming. However, where light is also shadow. And I think where the shadow of the central banks is will be also the light of algorithmic stablecoins as the future and an alternative to these central bank currencies.
Yeah, no, really well said. One of the things that is definitely on the forefront is these states are getting heavier and heavier and more controlling. What better way to control you than to have a total hysteria about an illness that can't be seen yet, but you could fall ill. So we need to track everything you do. And by the way, we need to that same phone wallet also has your wallet, which is tied to the central bank. And by the way, it also has your tickets and your everything's in there. It's so useful. And by the way, if you walk and get a fine, you get a little bad credit score, just like in China. And if you don't do the right thing, if you maybe walk across the red light, you also get bad marks. So we're going to stop you from trading for a little bit. And so we definitely see, I see it so clearly that eventually these social credit scores, which are a wet dream of all states really, will proliferate. So having a mirror alternative economy playing out is super, super important. This is what competing currencies are all about, is to make sure that you have got an alternative to go to.
If we look at developing countries, many developing countries are up to 20% of the people unbanked. And why are these guys unbanked? They're just too poor. Just for the banks, opening an account for these guys is not profitable. However, if you don't have a bank account, you can't participate really in the financial world, which means it becomes really tough to have a proper income source, to have anything that the society normally provides and you would like to access. So we see this as a massive issue, and we want to get also into this space and actually change it. We want to change make people that are unbanked banked through our stablecoins. So while many stablecoins have today even face large gas fees, and they make transfers in everyday life purchases impossible, we are building stablecoins that will use the latest scaling solutions to actually enable transfers on a very low gas fees. So this is the ultimate goal that we want to go towards with our stablecoins, that people can actually use it in real life, and not only to provide liquidity to liquidity pools. So to do everyday grocery shoppings and so on. But also, here again, why are we an infrastructure project? It is the DAO to define, for example, if we, like on our agenda is also a standard debit card. So it's the DAO to decide which debit card company will onboard to help us with banking and issuing these debit cards. So long story short, our stable coins are built for transfers, for everyday life, but also we want to add more and more use cases to our protocol. And at the end of the day, the DAO will decide how the platform develops.
Yeah.
Cool. So what are the investment opportunities right now? Like, we're coming up on the hour. I want to definitely see, because I don't know, I think that this seems a little bit safer to invest in than some other projects. Like, what is it for the average person? Is it only for accredited investors? Like, how can people participate in this at this point?
Yeah, so in the US, it's definitely only accredited investors. The US regulations are very, very strong. They protect people a little bit too much for my liking, but that's important too because there are a lot of scams out there. So that's what it is. But US investors can, if they contact us, we have to go through a SAFT, which is an agreement, another type of agreement, and we can do that. To do that, though, we do have to take a larger amount as a minimum. Because there is a lot more sort of work involved. In terms of the normal people that want to invest a little bit or not even invest, it really is. It's not really. I don't want to say invest because it's an infrastructure project. We hope that it'll go well and people will make some good coin from it, but there's definitely no promises that we can make. What we can say is that I am absolutely bullish on this project, hence me working on it and sweating and tearing and toiling away day in, day out. I really feel that we're going to change the world with this, and I feel that we will do very well financially with it as well. So if you do... If you are interested in supporting the project, you can the pre-sales happening, the pre-market distribution on Vaultoro. That's for Vaultoro customers, and then there'll be a private market distribution on the standard.io. It's for us, there's a few things that the standard token does, and this is the token that people will be remunerated in. So basically, standard token holders can not only govern the protocol, they can also use the prediction markets, which is great. But if you were to take a loan out from yourself, you can lower the stability fee that you pay, the interest rate, to begin with by half. And if you pay in standard token, and those standard tokens go into a separate treasury that's run by the DAO, and the DAO chooses what to do with that. They can choose to burn it, they can choose to airdrop it, they can choose to use it for marketing to grow the protocol further. It's up to the DAO. So that's one thing. But they can also purchase any liquidated assets under spot, 15% under spot up to. So if someone's taken a loan out from themselves and they were just took it all the way to the top, 85%, they just went there and then they disappeared, and the loan, basically the value, the collateral goes above that 85%, the contract would basically liquidate the assets and sell it automatically to anybody staking TST. So it's a great way for arbitrators. I don't know. My English, German, I'm starting to lose my English, but to pull an arbitrage on these liquidated assets is also a really great thing that TST.
Yeah, just to add to this liquidation mechanism is really important to keep the platform over collateralized. So people like CDPs, smart vaults, how we call them, that fall under the minimum collateralization rate, their assets get liquidated. But what does it mean? People have to buy these assets, like people that stake TST, standard token, on the platform, enable first to buy these liquidated assets. But they buy them with the stable coins that have been minted. Because when these CDPs fall under the minimum required collateralization rate, that's a really long term, then you have to take off the stable coins off the secondary markets. So the platform lives due to over collateralization. And that's why the smart mechanism has to be in place to always keep the platform over collateralized. We focus on very stable assets like gold, which went through a 5,000-year-old price finding mechanism, potentially the most stable asset in the world. So we live really, the platform focuses on these very stable assets, and therefore we hope the will be not a lot of CDPs defaulting, falling below the minimum collateralization rate. But yeah, so we saw it in like other projects, like for example the MakerDAO, where when the price of Ethereum really collapsed, this was this was really scary for people that were actually holding CDPs with the MakerDAO, because the liquidity, the stability fees got really high, and that's pretty scary. So we solved also that issue through a slightly different focus, more on hard assets that are stable in price, and then add a yield to these hard assets. But one thing that we haven't touched base on, I think, are really the use cases of the platform. So hold hard assets and participate and earn a yield through liquidity pools. There's one beautiful use case. But also, let's talk about people that live paycheck by paycheck. So the everyday person, in the US is it 78% that live paycheck by paycheck, and in other Western countries it's not very different. So if you live paycheck by paycheck, you basically have a really hard time saving for your retirement. And this is awful. Why? Because we cannot trust pension funds anymore. A lot of pension funds collapsed in the past. The alternatives are also not given yet. So you really have to rely on yourself when it comes to your retirement. And if you live paycheck by paycheck, it becomes hard to rely on yourself, because at the end of the day, at the end of the month, there's nothing left. So we want to enable these people to start saving. And how do we do that? Is people get their paycheck, buy the asset they trust will go up in value in the future, or remains at least stable and will not get eaten by inflation. And then they mint their stable coins, which is basically just printing liquidity for their everyday life. And let's assume people constantly, very diligently do this over the next couple of years or tens of years. At the end, when they will retire, they will have a lot of assets accumulated in these CDPs. And also, their loan that they have taken against themselves has been eaten by inflation. It's basically become really cheap to pay back. And this is a beautiful mechanism that will allow people to start accumulating wealth while not sacrificing liquidity. And finally, we get 78% of people that were not able to save finally into the investment world and enable them to save. And I think the standard is something, and that's why Josh and I are really excited about this, is something the world really needs. It solves a lot of current problems. It solves a lot of the problems of the aging population. It solves the problems of massive inflation that is hitting everyone who's trying to save. And also it allows people to participate finally with physical assets in this whole DeFi space that's super, super lucrative when it comes to yields.
Yeah, crypto changed my life financially, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's now happening. You know, crypto really is the black hole sucking the entire old school financial system into it. It won't stop. It's going to get more and more like that as all the old systems start to crumble. Why would you start to save in a unit of account that's being printed out of nowhere at infinitum? Why would you save in that? Why wouldn't you save in a rare asset like Bitcoin or Ethereum now, or gold or silver, and then spend that in the unit of account? Sure, when you need to spend, it's great. Fiat's great because if you're spending, you're not holding it for very long. And it's a great unit of account. It moves, it does. Everyone's got their cards and they're swiping and they're tapping and all of this. This is all sorted out. But you definitely don't want to save in that. And when I started Vaultoro all those years ago, I wanted to do even before that. Back in 2001, I launched the first swap site where people could swap clothes because I wanted this alternative economy. Get people out of thinking outside of the banking system. And of course, when Bitcoin came along, it was like, this is perfect. We can get people outside of the banking system, get them out. And launching Vaultoro was really like Get everyone as fast as you can out of that. Start securing your money in something else rather than a unit of an account, because that's all it is. Folks, there is a total difference between money and currency. And I know this isn't talked about in school. You're not taught this, but it's true. Money is something that holds value, that's secure. Currency is something that moves and is liquid and it can change. And currency can be money. Money can be currency, but they're two different things.
I like these lessons. I think people are going to learn a lot from this show. Is there anything else that you guys want to share before we wrap up?
You know, I really want to say that part of what we're doing is to solve inflation. When you're living in a highly inflationary time, and I just want to say this again, this is another lesson. I'm sorry, guys, but we are going into into inflation, and if not hyperinflation, all around the world now. We are seeing the first global inflationary bubble starting. No matter what they tell you on the news, it's happening. In fact, the US food prices have gone 31% in terms of inflation in the last few months. Like, it's huge. It's starting to hit. And this is happening because they're printing literally trillions of dollars. So how do you survive? How do the wealthy traditionally keep their money in an inflationary environment? Some may say, oh, well, they just hold gold or they just hold something else. Well, actually, no. They do something better. They go short in the thing that's being inflated away. What does that mean? They borrow it, they sell it for real assets. Meaning, if you're living in a highly inflationary time, what the rich traditionally do is they take fixed interest mortgages and they buy property. They take as much money from the bank, they buy physical goods, because let's say you take a loan out for a house right now for, let's say, $500,000. It's a nice house. And then in 10 years time, 20 years time, you can buy, some milk for that same $500,000. Like, believe it or not, this is what happens. Like, it sounds weird. Ask a Venezuelan, ask a Turk, ask an Argentinian, ask a Russian. You'll know. Ask a German. Like, it's happened over and over and over again, and it always happens. Hyperinflation always happens after a massive shock to the system. The shocks are either natural disasters, a war, a badly run economy, like a bad president or a corrupt president. And this is what we've had with this global pandemic. We're now, they're stimulating. What does that mean? They print, and this has happened every single time. So it could definitely happen where you need to take loans out. And this is why the standard's so beautiful. It allows people to save in a hard asset that's secure, away outside of this inflation, borrow against it, and let the inflation pay off that loan. Imagine you could buy a car and let the inflation pay off the loan. It's fantastic. So this is really, this is why it's important to save in hard assets, spend in fiat.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to, I don't know, what can I do? Can I try it? Like, even if I'm not an accredited investor, can I do a loan there at some point?
Yeah, definitely. Once it's out there, it's just purely the initial investors have to come in and jump through some hoops if they're in the US. The rest of the world can join us. That's fine. But there's a couple of, if you're from North Korea, you're also out of luck. If you're from Syria, also out of luck. But nevertheless, it will be available for the entire world, and eventually as a protocol.
I was just thinking, like, what would it mean if it was available in a place like North Korea? You know what I mean? Like, what impact would something like that have in a place with such oppression? It's actually kind of sad that you can't put it there, right?
No, we can't. Like, the protocol will run in North Korea. That's not a problem. Once it's up and running, it's decentralized. It's more like the initial purchasing of the token, because projects like these centralized projects, they start off kind of centralized, and then they decentralize fairly quickly. It's a core team, they're building it out and then decentralizes. So, but I think it would be amazing in these oppressive governments to have the ability for people to use these currencies. The problem is some of these oppressive governments have really controlled the internet down to the nth degree. The thing with North Korea is hardly anyone has the internet. This is why I call bullshit every time they go, North Korean hackers hacked the... no, they didn't. There's no North Korean hack. There's hardly anyone that even knows how to use a computer over there. Like, they literally have no computer. Like, it's not like there's... Like the US and here and everywhere in the West, everyone grows up with computers. In North Korea, there's really hardly anyone that has computers. And if they have... And maybe the elite few are amazing hackers. I don't know, but I don't know. It's a wacky world, the old North Korea thing. You never know how much is propaganda and how much is real, and it's a bit of a curtain.
Right. And maybe my call to action for all the listeners: join us on this mission. Join us at Standard. Send us your CV. Get in touch. We are building a great team. If you believe in us, if you believe in the protocol, if you believe in crypto, if you want to get into the crypto space, get in touch. Reach out to us. We are very active. Join our community. We have right now, we just started it recently, but people from all around the world are joining our Telegram channel, which I hope we can link somewhere so you guys can the listeners can easily join. But yeah, join us. We need bright minds. We need people that are motivated to bring this forward. We want to bring the standard into the world. We want to achieve true decentralization, and this is only possible with amazing people joining our movement, our vision.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I can't wait for the next update. Josh, you got to start coming back on the shows, but I guess I got to make them a little bit more often. It's been a little tough this year with all this stuff going on, right? Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Tatiana Show. Any final words? Just goodbye.
Just goodbye. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Ciao, everybody.
Thank you, Tatiana.
Bye. Thanks.
What's the point of all this technology without a little love in our lives? Our hosts, Tatiana Moroz and Laurin Kasovitz, have come together to bring you Proof of Love. Go to proofoflovecast.com. The Tatiana Show has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond. Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. We gotta think and reflect and use lots of intellect with our hearts when we work together. I know that it can be so hard out there, looking all around and saying that life ain't fair. So that is why we will fight and stay up late at night, listening to the Tatiana Show. Thank you for listening to the Tatiana Show. Please follow us on Twitter at Queen Tatiana or on Facebook and Instagram at Tatiana Moroz Music. More episodes can be found at thetatianashow.com, and make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. You are listening to The Tatiana Show. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on The Tatiana Show is intended as financial advice, legal advice, or really anything other than entertainment. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're listening to us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on or of any sponsors or any affiliate products you may hear about on this show.